We are going to have a good time. If you are on the East Coast, like I was saying, then it is the midnight oil. And if you're here Central Time, then you got the same thing, midnight oil. But baby, if you out west, welcome to Saturday Night is Live. So happy to have each and every one of you hanging out with me tonight. Listen, you guys, we're not doing anything heavy. We're just hanging. And there's nothing wrong with us just kicking it with each other. So we do have a couple of topics that I want to talk about. All right, because let's just be honest, you got to have something that's going to be worthwhile if we're all going to be sitting up hanging out together. And so the first thing that I want to do is I do want to talk about relationships. I want to talk about women. I want to talk about men, but not in a derogatory way, right? I want to talk about it in a way that's going to lift each individual up as well as put the mirror on ourselves. Because let's just face it, these days, there are so many things that are going on that are pulling and tugging at husbands and wives and relationships, even family, because the stress that's being put out in the atmosphere is so heavy. And so, as I lean on y'all and y'all lean on me, maybe we can all come to a happy medium and figure this thing out. I do want to talk about living in regret. And I do want to talk about, how things happen when you make decisions and then you can't live up to the decision that you made. And then you say, oh my goodness, I shouldn't have done this, but it's too late to double back, right? It's absolutely too late to double back. And then I also want to let you see in real life what it looks like. I want to take a look at relationships as it relates to, husbands stepping out, wives stepping out. And then today, I really, truly, honestly want to look at the individuals that help in the stepping out. Let me explain that. I don't have many stories about the dudes, but I got a story for you that I promised you guys. Well, I shouldn't say promise. I told you guys about it a few months back. And it was this chick, and I don't even know what she's still doing right now, but it was this chick who found herself being honest and saying, hey, I don't want my own husband. I would rather have somebody else's husband. So tonight, we're going to talk about that. We're going to show her clips. We're going to give props, big ups to the channel that it came from. And we're also going to take a deep dive in it. Why? Because when everybody says, how can this person do this to his wife? Or how could she do that to her husband? You need to think and listen to the mindset of the individual that's stepping out with your spouse. And then I want you to think whether or not it was worth you taking the time to bounce. So first thing I'm going to look at is good old Tia Mowry. Tia Mowry divorced her husband not long ago. And when she did that, she put herself in a situation where she now has her children and she has her kids. And she's also alluded a couple of times to the fact that not only did she regret doing what she did when she left her husband, but she also has alluded to the fact that she's lonely. And then she's doubled back. Now, this has some music on it, so I'm not going to play it, but I am going to read it. It says dating. This side says dating, and this side right here says single. And it's April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, and we're back to January. February, and March. And it says alone but never lonely. Well, this is an oxymoron statement, sweetie, because you're literally standing here alone and lonely. Because if you were enjoying the loneliness that you created for yourself, you wouldn't have these grimaces on your face. You wouldn't be so thirsty, always on social media, begging for attention, wearing clothing that's a little bit more revealing than it should be for your age. Now, the outfit you have on right there is absolutely adorbs. I love a great jean jumper. So that is very cute. I like that. That's very nice. But I'm also going to show you this one because this tells you everything that you want to see. Let's go back. Not that one, not that one, not that one, but that one. I thought y'all was back together. It goes down in the DMs, she says. She says, down in the DM, would you marry me if you knew me well? And she said, what the hell? What the heliante? Very interested. I'm going to try to turn this
How
down
young
so
we
you guys
talking?
can see her.
Do you know
The
how
person
old
said,
I
would you
am?
date me if
I'm
I was a
very
little
flattered.
younger?
Right again. I thought y'all were back together. Let's normalize co-parenting in a healthy way.
Okay.
Things don't always have to be toxic. But yeah, I'm outside. No. I'm in my bedroom. I'm inside. I just think you're absolutely amazing. You display so much grace, and beautiful doesn't even begin to describe you. I know DMs aren't the way, laugh out loud, but I just had to say it. I think that's cute. That's like a nice way to slide into a DM.
You know, you can laugh all you want, but you're acting. Clearly, you're acting, and clearly, you know you made a mistake. That's clearly what you've done, and it's okay to admit it. But she instead, and you guys haven't seen anything. If you've not been really following her, then you really don't know exactly to what extent she's really been trying to reach out to get attention. She's a beautiful young lady. She's very smart. She's got a lot of talent, both she and her sister. But her sister appears to be a lot more grounded than she is. She actually married a young man who was not financially as stable as she was. And that was okay because he was totally all right with being married to her. And he was totally all right with the jobs that he was able to get that still helped to supply some of the needs of the household. But here's the most important thing: neither one of you guys were destitute. You didn't feel like he was up to your level. You didn't feel like he could match you. You didn't feel like you guys were that quote unquote power couple. You did a lot of smiling while you guys were married. You did a lot of grinning when you guys were together. But now that you guys have separated and you're divorced and you're out here and you're really trying to see what it's all about, Alfie, the dating world is not what you thought it was. You thought that a lot of these other chicks that get out here and get free and everything that they had it made, and now that's what you were really hoping to portray to the audience and to the world, and you were hoping that it would be real. But the danger in what you did was catastrophic for your children. I don't care how much money you have. You cannot tell me that being divorced from your husband and their father, who was doing zero wrong to you, it's just that he did not match up to what you made financially. You cannot tell me that that does your children any better. And for the women out there that are listening who may be on the brink of or the cusp of deciding to step aside, make sure that you look at all of the weights, all of them, that you weigh it, that you balance it, that you measure and meet that thing out. And the reason why I'm telling you that is because you could be exactly like her, but if you're not as financially stable as she is, you will find yourself in a situation that is very difficult to turn around and come away from. Being a single mother, like she is now, has got some real bad problems. Those children love their dad. They wanted to be with their dad, and their dad absolutely adore them. He adores his kids. And so when you see moms like this who are now grasping at straws, hoping that she can make it better, it's sad. Now let's look at some of the comments because you guys can't see this outfit, but down here where she's crossing her legs, it is really, I'm just going to come out and say it. Somebody just told her, girl, you know your purse is open. She's sitting here with these shorts on that are unseemly. And I hope that you guys don't have no children watching this because this is not for kids. This program tonight is not for children. We are going to say some things tonight that are very sensitive and that they're reality and that they're real, but I don't think that they're appropriate for children. So if you have children around you, please do not allow them to listen to this. We're not going to say anything vulgar. We're not going to say anything foul, but I am going to point out some of the things that women and men do when they're looking for attention. And the sad part about it is once she turns that camera off and she unfolds her kneecaps and sits down neatly, whether or not she sits at the edge of the bed and cries is of no consequence. But the part that I want you to understand is there is a broken heart inside this woman, and she's the one who took it out of her chest, ripped it, broke it in two, threw it on the ground, and commenced to stepping on it. She did that, just like a lot of us do that. I cannot tell you enough times where I have thought about, while I adjust my seat here, some of the irreparable damage that's done when your children go through watching mom and dad get a divorce. And then the sad part about it is, and I'll speak for myself, sometimes you can step out of that marriage, divorce, heal up, 10, 15 years later, you can go get married. But then what you start to see is the dating game is not the way that it was when you were dating back in the 70s and the 80s, if you're a person of a certain age. And you can also see that people don't have the kind of love and compassion that you grew up understanding for relationships, right? Hey, Solemn Peace. Yeah, ironically, I thought about you earlier. I really did. So I'm glad to see you, Solemn Peace. And Proverb Nation. I've thought about Proverb Nation recently too. So, it's not the same as it was when you were dating years and years ago. Listen, the music has changed. The mindset has changed. What a relationship is and gender roles have changed. Some people believe in 50-50. Other people don't believe in that. Some people believe my wife gonna stay at home and take care of the kids. And those guys are few and in between. And then there are the other people who believe in, nope, if I get up and go to work, she got to get up and go to work too. Right. So, and even if you're an individual who is of a certain age and you're not of childbearing years, you are possibly the type of lady who was, raised volunteering with your kids, or maybe you had your children and you guys were able to let you stay home and you had a side business. Once you step away from the security of family, it's a totally different game. You'll find people who just want to hit it and quit it and not call you back. And you think because you were holding yourself back because that's how you were raised, right? You get out here and you let somebody hit it and then you find out that they just quit it and you're sitting here holding the bag in a lot of ways. You don't understand that. So it is far better. And on top of all of that, when you get in a situation that is worse than your marriage was, you'd be like, oh man, I should have sat down because I could have done that. If I can handle the trash that I'm dealing with now, some people would think, I'm gonna put my hand over my heart. Some people think that they could do better. And then when they get out in those streets and they find out that they cannot, regret is what they have. And this young lady, if you've been following her, if you have been following her, you will know that that's exactly the situation that she's in. But she left her husband, not for any fault of his own, other than the fact that she claims they just outgrew each other. Now, don't you know that it was really awkward for her to be on that television show with those other ladies and sit there and, they're just all clapping. Oh my God. What you just said is so profound. Oh my God, you had to find yourself. Oh, meanwhile, you finding yourself, but your kids are lost in the wilderness. Oftentimes, children become a little bit more introverted while going through this because you literally tore their life apart because your selfishness made you think that even though he wasn't beating me, even though we didn't have fights and arguments, and the only problem that I have was I'm a millionaire and he was just a thousandaire, but I knew he was a thousandaire before we got together. And I just want to try to see what else is out there. Sweetheart, the cat you got is it. Well, nobody else gonna deal with those twins. The men that they got, that's it. The one that you matched with, that you had those kids with, the man that loved you and his family and got on national television, and you never said he was lying. Nobody ever said this boy was lying. All they did was said, wow, he's so reserved and so calm and so quiet. And It seems like it's just her that's talking about their marriage and talking about their business. That young man stood reserved, and she backed up his method of just being contained by saying he was a good guy. He didn't do anything to her. She just felt like they outgrew each other. No, the fact is, you got on a movie set, or you started working with some other people. You got around other men, you got around other folks, and you thought that was the green grass you were missing. And you didn't even know that when you got over there, baby, they don't even water their grass. It's astroturf. That's right. It's astroturf, baby. It's all fake. Now you want him back. That's why somebody in her comments said, I thought you guys was back together. I thought y'all was back together. So let's look at this. She says, it definitely goes down in the DM. So I thought, why not share a few and give you guys all of my honest reactions? Some had me cracking up. Others, you just got to see for yourself. Should I do a part 2? She asks. Let me know down in the comments. Somebody said, girl, your purse is open. Another person said, why is she so desperate? These are chicks that's saying this. All right. This person here says, let's normalize co-parenting in a healthy way. 100, that part. So they just give it a thumbs up. Another person says, your shorts though, LOL. They got a peach sitting there. Your shorts though, peach, LOL, smile, smile. Cover up, Tia. Yeah, cover up. Yeah. Yep. This gentleman says, all the men hearing are staring at one ting like, is that real? And he's got 3 laughing emojis. And then the next person says, please do, because your laugh brings me joy. Oh my gosh, do a part 2 because your laugh just brings me joy. These are all public comments. Somebody says, girl, close your legs. What is going on out here? Somebody else says, I am 42 and only outside to go to the grocery store or get the mail. Because she said, I'm outside now. I'm outside. And that means, I'm for the streets. I'm outside now. Now I'm outside. Okay, I'm outside now. That's what she's saying. I am outside and I am available and no one cares. No one cares. Look at this face. This person's like, I don't care. Yep, I don't care. You just opened up a whole box of trouble, this person says. Girl, close your legs. So it's a serious situation, and I wasn't the only person that saw that. Not at all. I wasn't the only person that saw it. So now what I want you guys to do before I go into the actual clips that we're going to look at, I'm going to go on ahead and I'm going to talk about this. And it's coming from James chapter 1. Yeah, if y'all don't like the Bible, you may as well close out, because I want to talk about good and perfect gifts. And I also want to talk about when things go on in your life, who's tempting you and who's not tempting you, and what's really going on. And I'm going to paraphrase a lot of what I'm about to say, because I know that you guys all know those scriptures that we're about to read. So we are coming from James 1. I love the book of James. I really, really do. Sometimes it's like we need to get in James and just kick it. Okay. When tempted, James 1:13, when tempted, no one should say, God is tempting me, for God can't be tempted with evil or by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. But this is the part that I want to talk about, because this is the issue. When we get a little frustrated and we think, oh, I just got to go. I can't stay here. He doesn't make enough money. Oh, he doesn't make enough money. I have a good friend, rest her soul, who did the same exact thing. She was making so much money, and she just looked at her husband like he was nothing. This man absolutely adored her until the day they died. And when they died, she had already left him once, and she had already gotten married again, but he loved her and adored her. And she was out there searching, looking for something else. And this is what this passage is really talking about in some parts, because this passage, James 1:13, works in any situation where you have literally uprooted yourself and gone on to something that you really didn't need to do. So it says, and when tempted, No one should say, God is tempting me, for God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. Verse 14 says, but each one is tempted when by his own evil desires he is lured away and enticed. Then, after the desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is full grown, gives birth to death. Think about that. The verse 16 says, do not be deceived, my brothers, beloved, my beloved brothers. Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights, with whom there is no change or shifting shadow. Now, I am reading from the Berean. So, for those of you who like the King James, if you want to study out of that on your own time and just reference these passages, you're welcome to do that. But just for clarification, this is out of the Berean, and it is James 1, and it's verses 13 through 16. All right. So, that's an important piece to consider. Was it the fact that he wasn't making enough money? No, probably not. It was the fact that you went somewhere and you saw something. And when you saw that something, you wanted to have something like that. And you looked at him when you got home because he had the audacity to stay with the kids while you may have been traveling, going to this show or going to that show or doing this program or showing up here or there. And then after you got back skinning and grinning from skinning and grinning with all the great people that gave you an interview, or you got the opportunity to interview, or you got the opportunity to go in the green room and chat with, you look at him and you have disdain, because you got wrapped up in all of that fake stuff that you was dealing with. You got wrapped up to you and all of the fakeness that you saw out there in the world, and you wanted to juxtapose your marriage to that. And when you saw that he didn't match what you thought you saw, because a lot of that stuff when you're in the entertainment world, honey, let me tell you something. You guys know I've rocked in that world before. And a lot of the stuff that you see backstage and in the green room and going into, people are broken. You get up in some of these stars' faces, their faces are rats. I mean, it's just like drats. They don't look good up close. Some of them are so gaunt. Some of them are actually poor when you start to look at the clothing on them and you see their stitches on the clothes, or, the elbows on some of the jackets and you really begin to see their inadequacies. And that part is what you can't see when you're trying to compare the spouse you chose with that, because you do not want to see it and you just want to deal with being lured by your own lust and your own enticement and your own desires. That's what happens when you start to compare your husband or your wife with somebody else. I know I'm talking to somebody and I know I'm not tripping. Okay. A lot of people are into this the same way that Tia Mowry was. It's not just her. I could really just go on and show you guys everybody. But now I want to talk about the other side of the fence. And that is, you go from being one broken woman in that regard to another woman who is so broken that she would actually choose to sleep with other people's husbands instead of getting her own, because she doesn't want to deal with it. All she's looking for is money. All she's looking for is a good time and a wet tail. I told you guys, keep them kids out of here. If you got kids in here, get your kids, baby. Get your babies, baby. Okay? Because we're going to look at this story and we're going to look at how some women have done it for money, not for love. We're going to use this as a commentary. We're going to go into it. I have to come back in and out so that way I don't get jacked. But as soon as we're done with this, I'll tell you guys exactly where we got this from. But this right here is, she did it for love and not for money. This is a woman who has decided that she doesn't want a relationship. Okay. She does not want a relationship. All she wants is the man to give her a little sum every now and again and take all his money, rip him off, and send him back to his wife. He'd be broke when he get back to her physically and in his pocketbook. But according to her, she doesn't want a man. She does not want a man. I think the first person I want to start off with is the gentleman who asked the question. He asks a question. I think this is him. Hold on. Let me see here.
Let me ask the woman outside.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, when you have this kind of constant two things. When you have this kind of constant, you're doing this just for the fun of it, just in the moment of it. I mean, I think even Cruz, the type of person normally serve, but I'm just asking, does the woman outside ever not desire to have more than this? Even people that don't want commitment, they still want the benefits of this is my person. All right. Yes. So does the woman outside ever not have that thought that, oh,
can I respond?
Can I have this person? That's one question. I want you to answer everything once. Because I like as you give us this theory. The second one is when the woman outside now comes inside. All right. Like you're saying that she's 40, whether you're 40, whether you're 50, whether you're 60, you understand some things that are core, same in humans. So when you have come inside the house, all right, and now there's a new woman outside. Now you're the woman inside. Power has changed hands. Do you not think that your same emotions that I'm referring to when you are outside, the same emotions inside, as much as you try to ignore it, as much as you try to say, oh, he's just having fun, he's respecting me, you don't think you would ever be hurt by the actions of the man with a new woman outside now that you are inside? Those are.
So basically what he's asking her is, and I'm going to put it all together here, he's saying, okay, so since you are the woman that's outside, what happens when you become the woman inside and now you stand in a vulnerable position to be hurt? What happens when you now flip the script and you are her? What happens? And I'm not talking, these people are just talking. No, this woman that I'm about to show you guys, this lady is full on in this man's life and requires the man to give her money and to take care of her and to do all these different things. But she caught the right one because he tripped her up and wouldn't follow along with it. So here you go. Oh,
so recently I had a dating experience. It was an experiment for me. I would never date someone that would keep money out of the table in the beginning of the relationship. So someone came on to me, oh, I like you, I love you, at this. I want us to have a relationship and maybe even lead to marriage. But I need to get to know you before I can spend money on you.
Okay, so this woman is telling us that she had found a man and now all of a sudden she's decided she wants to change it a little bit. She didn't change it in that she wasn't going to sleep with somebody else's husband. She changed it to say, okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change it and just be with the guy and wait for him to give me, the money. She still give up the cookies, but she's going to wait for him to give her the money. And that's the man that sort of played with her mind and played with her emotions, because what he ended up doing was not giving her anything. And then when he did break her off a little bit of money, it was so small and it was so minute. And what he did was put the light on her and showed she wasn't what she thought she was. She was not what she thought she was. Here's the other woman's contribution. In other words,
man has the decision to say yes or no. If that other woman keeps saying yes to every married man because they are the ones that moved to me, don't you think this is what contributes to the situation where married men would abandon their families? Because in the end, if you do something with the other woman, you can't fall in love with them. You don't go blame him now because he living wife for us can't meet you. You can't do things where we say maybe you never even see before. He can't begin the things like, this is my wife. Do I really love this woman or I love the other woman?
Okay, he's asking. And the way he was really going at her, this man right here, as you can see, they're from Africa. I believe they're from Nigeria. But this man right here was really getting at this chick because he understood the influence that the woman that was just saying, I thought that I would, try this new situation with a man and not necessarily go with him just for the money. He was really looking at how all the other women on the panel were becoming intrigued by what she was doing, how cunning she was, and how manipulative she was, and how the other women went from being, having disdain with her behavior to, listening to what she was saying and slightly reasoning with it. So he's saying, now, wait a minute, you're telling me that you don't understand how, and I'm paraphrasing what he says, you don't understand how this woman's contributing to the delinquency of the husband? Just because he comes does not mean you have to let him in your house. Just because he comes around your job does not mean you need to go outside and see him. Just because he comes to you and says, let's go to lunch, does not mean you have to. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what you never, ever hear. You never hear people say that. You always hear people say, well, don't be mad at the other person because you didn't marry them. No, this man just hit the nail on the head. Just hit the nail on the head. He said, don't you think that you are contributing to the downfall of this marriage? Because you not turning that woman's husband around saying, look, go on now. Go on back over there now. No, you are opening everything up to this man. And that is what he was talking about. That is what he was talking about. So you do hear a lot of people say, don't get mad at your wife's boyfriend. Get mad at your wife because you took a vow with your wife. They're absolutely right. You should be upset with your spouse. But that man's point is still valid no matter how you try to shape it and no matter how you try to fashion it. He's still valid with what he had to say. He really is. He's valid. Here you go.
So the other woman basically is the woman outside. It's not just in relationship or even in terms of being who you are, right? You don't conform to society standard. You don't care what society says this is supposed to be. So she said something. People's husband are supposed to be off limits.
Or to the other
But
woman.
you forget that it's the same people's husband that will chase you.
That's what I'm saying. Yes, he's going to chase you. Me,
So-
how many
so when-
married men have entered my DM?
Don't
If I
worry.
start
Now, when
mentioning
you get a lot has
my
been
that's what I'm saying. They will approach me.
And you will say
what do you want
no.
to give me? Is it not money?
You will say no.
I will
right?
say no. Sorry, you're
Exactly.
married.
So they approach me and I say yes.
Okay, so you see what she just says? She said a lot of people think that, you know what, a woman's husband is supposed to be off limits. She says, but they approach me. She goes, exactly. And they approach me and I say yes. So does that sound like somebody who's just an innocent bystander? If they already knew what was going on and they decided to lend their members, lend their body, lend their heart, lend their body, because this chick's mind is like a dude. Okay. I've been to her TikTok page. She is exactly like a man. She doesn't have any remorse. Frankly, I don't understand how women can lay down with multiple men. Me personally, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. I would not have nobody running up in and out of me like a doggone train station. I'm so sorry. I don't know how she does it. But you see, it's when you take your mind and you remove the part that is flesh-like, or your heart, and you remove the part that's flesh-like and only think of what you want. And it does not matter until somebody is knocking on your door, going upside your head about their loved one. It doesn't matter until that reality hits you, or until you're stricken with something that you caught from that person's husband because you were not the only one he was with, and vice versa when it's women. Because I've said this before and I'll say it again. A lot of women cheat more than a man does. They do. They do. All right. We've all talked about Gomer. We've all talked about it. Okay. We've all talked about how she was and how she was just all over the place. Not my son and all these other names. Right. So it's really a well-rounded amount of guilt and a well-rounded amount of wrong to pass. It really is. Everybody gets a little bit today. I will pass it all to everybody, right? All right. So when we see that and we look at that and we understand that that's how a lot of people really live their life, you know what I mean? They just live their life like that. I was talking to somebody. I was on the panel the other night, and I was talking with Jay Prince and all of his people that he had on his channel. He had a really good show. It was about an 8-hour live. Good night, Irene. But anyway, people were coming in and out throughout those 8 hours. And one of those particular portions, I made a comment and I was saying that, hey, you know what? We were talking about one of my sons out in California. He had met a gal and she was not into 50-50. And what I've taught my sons is that when you go out, I've taught them when you go out or when you're trying to date somebody, take that person out first You guys sit down, meet each other at a restaurant. You don't even have to go to her house if she doesn't feel safe yet, because a lot of times these days, people want to meet you elsewhere where they have their own vehicle that they can leave in, right? So he met the young lady at the restaurant. He paid for it. He said, Mom, I was so smitten. She was so beautiful and so smart. He said, and she was very well put together. She had her home. He says, because he has his place and he's got the 2 cars and he's working and he's got a pension and all of that stuff. And she really seemed to match his energy. And so he was like, this was just such a great date. She was so nice and intellectually. Oh, he just went on about this lady. And then he said that what ended up happening was the next date after he paid the first time, she invited him. So they went out and they ate and she paid. And then he said, we came to the conversation. So after that, those 2 dates had gone by, they were on the phone and she's obviously given him a litmus test. And she says to him, so tell me, what kind of relationships have you had in the past? And, what kind of relationship are you looking for? But before I ask you that, she says, do you believe in 50-50 or do you believe in, not 50? If you don't believe in 50-50 or not. My son said, oh, no, no, I believe in 50-50, 100%. No. If I got to get up, you got to get up. And if I go, hey, this boy told this woman, no, you're going to have to pay something. You're going to have to pay, either, have to pay half the rent and half the light bill and half, like, I can't carry it all on my own. I told him, he said, Mama, I don't know why the lady chuckled. She said, hee. And then she said, I got to go. She hung up the phone, and then I noticed on the iPhone, apparently it turns a different color when you block somebody or something. But he said that he noticed that he couldn't reach her, that she had blocked the phone number. And he goes, Mom, why? Why did she block me? And I said, because she had enough sense to know that you were not going to be the guy for her. Well, what's wrong with 50-50? I said, first off, he said, because here in California, it's too expensive and you can't do this and you can't do. I said, let me tell you what it is, sweetie. Let me tell you what it is. It's the fact that I want you to get. If you have to go 50-50 with a woman that you are assigned to or that was assigned to you, then you are not prepared for her at that time. You can't afford a wife if you expect for that wife to go 50-50. And I don't care what anybody says, this is my show. And if you want to talk about it another way, you can go on your show and say it over there. But I truly and honestly believe that if you are the husband, which is a nice little horticultural term, should be doing his husbandry. He should be taking care of everything. And if you cannot afford that, then do not sign up for it. It does not mean that there won't be times where you may struggle or you may have a problem and your wife has to go down in her special stash from where she's been selling hair bows online or making, little items and things of that nature and putting that little nest egg to the side for whatever the reason. It doesn't mean that sometimes she's not going to have to, if you really need it, take in that and go in and take care of something. And you know what? Let me tell you something. Don't you know that a lot of wise women will see what their husband's going through? And if that happens, the man may not ever go to her and say anything. But if you're like the Abigail story that we did a couple of nights ago, you will understand how Abigail would step in with the wisdom that she was given and that was ennobled in her. And that is that woman go down in that special stash and she just goes and takes care of those things. Her husband may be worried and trying to figure out how it's going to happen. He hasn't asked her for anything. He has not regretted marrying her or taking a wife. It's just what happened. Whatever it is, whether it's the job, didn't have the right amount of money, or maybe he got ill or he couldn't finish doing what he's doing. He's already feeling bad enough. But that lady, like Abigail, would just go down in that secret squirrel stash, pull them dollars out and call that company and make that payment, or go on ahead and pick up that item. Why? Because that's her heart and that is who she is. Right? But she should never have to live in that place. I'm talking to somebody because I know I'm talking to me. I've been there and I've done that. And I've never tried to pretend like I was perfect under any stretch of the imagination. So I know how it is when you're trying to figure out where things are going to come from. But when you are seeking a wife and you do not understand the necessity of being the husband and taking care of that wife, don't you sit your tail at no restaurant with no woman. And then when y'all get on the phone, you tell, oh, no, you need to do 50-50. You need to be 50-50. Man, this chick had all kinds of stuff. Big old bad house. Okay. All right. She had all kinds of stuff. All she was looking for was to find out, where is your mind? Because even though a woman physically can do all that you can do physically for a short time, it doesn't mean she wants to live in that place. It does not mean she wants to live in that place. And here is the nut that's inside of that shell. If you are in a circumstance like that, you have to understand that that's not the person you are supposed to be with. If a person does not want you to be a 50-50 person, then that's not the person for you. If the person wants you to be a 50-50 person and that's not who you are, move on. If you want a woman that's 50-50, then don't stop with a traditional woman. You're only going to make yourself sad and you're going to make her sad. If you have a traditional woman and you are a man that has a mindset of 50-50 and you know you're never going to change, shame on you for holding her hostage. Shame on you for getting a relationship with him, ma'am. And shame on you, sir, for holding on and lying, talking about, yeah, it's going to be all right. We'll make it. Yeah, I don't mind. Yeah, you can stay home. And then every now and then you want to throw a jab at her because she's at home making, curtains, or maybe she's, selling stuff online. She's got money, but you are starting to regret the fact that she's a traditional woman. You're a 50-50 man, and now you're with her, but you don't want to let her go because you don't want to let your good thing go. Don't you know you better not be with somebody that you're not meet for, somebody that you're not supposed to be with? Let them folks go on about their business. Let them go on about their business. Because if you don't, you're going to end up ruining their lives and yours. And let me tell you something, when you're in a bad marriage or a bad situation or a bad job or a bad relationship, time drags, but it goes fast. I'm going to let you think about that. Time drags, but it goes fast. Huh? It feels like you're in a slow motion, but when you stop and you turn around, you see 20 years has passed in nothing flat. So time drags, but it flies at the same time. Listen, I appreciate each and every one of you guys for hanging out with me for our Saturday Night Is Live on the West Coast and the Midnight Oil here Central and the East Coast. I am so happy to have each and every one of you guys with me. You say the days creep and the years fly. Absolutely. That is so true. The days creep and the years fly. That's it right there. That's the truth right there. Well, I'm glad you guys hung out with me. I appreciate you. I don't know whether you guys have had the opportunity to go over to Headlines with a Voice and see some of the things that we've been doing over there. I want to also let you guys know that if you are interested in becoming a member here, we are doing both on Headlines with a Voice as well as the Lockhart Perspective. Our memberships are going to be some of our short stories, and we're putting them up. So it's not going to be the stuff that we're talking about here. There's just going to be stories that are written, stories that I have written that I'm now putting up. So if you're interested, especially over there on Headlines with a Voice, there's a whole list of things that you get over there. So just consider becoming a member. All right. Listen, I appreciate each and every one of you for hanging out with me. I want you guys to make sure that no matter what you do, you take care of yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you already know what I always say. Nobody gonna take care of you. Nobody, nowhere, no way, no how. Take care of you first, and then you can reach around and help somebody else. Okay? All right. Peace. Hey everyone, it's me, Felicia, of the Lockhart Perspective and Headlines with a Voice. I want to tell you a little secret. This is what I used to do because I don't do it anymore. I would go to the store, buy the barbecue sauce, pour it inside of a bowl, put a whole bunch of different spices, a dash of brown sugar, a dash of maple, and a dash of mustard, stir it all around, and everybody would be like, oh my gosh, this is the best, this is the best. But I was exhausted after all of that, and a lot of times I couldn't remember how many dashes of what I put in it.
But I don't have to do that anymore because now I just go to Judge Joe Brown's website and I order his 3-pack of bottled barbecue sauce. It is by far the best, and I do mean the best barbecue sauce I've ever eaten. And when you go to his website and you order his 3-pack, you'll see exactly what I mean. Head on over to jjbbbbq.com and order Judge Joe Brown's barbecue sauce. You'll be glad you did, and you're going to tell me about it. I know you will. To receive instant notification each time I upload, please hit the subscribe button and the bell notification.
Helping you